Bhartrihari, a great king who became a sannyasi, I told the story briefly yesterday to all of you. And then he wrote Subhashita Trishatakam. In that one Shatakam, collection of 100 verses is Vairagya Shatakam. It's about detachment, dispassion. In that he writes, Bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha. We don't consume the sense objects, they consume us. We don't drink, it drinks us. We don't smoke, it smokes us. That is the nature of the sense objects. Bhogana bhuktaha vayameva bhuktaha. We are the ones who are getting consumed, we are not consuming. Tapona taptaha vayameva taptaha. We think we are striving for things, taptaha, getting agitated. We want other things. And we are doing great meditation, austerities to attain those. But truth is that inside what is happening to us, we are only getting burnt. Instead of having the burning desire for God, all these desires are actually burning us from inside. Kalo na yati, vayameva yati. We are not spending time. Time is spending us. With every passing day, we are close to our grave, a day closer. So we are not spending time. The time is spending us. Trishnana jirnaha, vayameva jirnaha. Our desires don't become old and die. We become old and die. We think by fulfilling this desire will disappear sometime and die, become old, jirnaha, it will become weak and old and die. No, our desires don't become weak and old and they don't die. We become weak and old in that process and we die. And finally he concludes, Sarvam vastu bhayavanvitam bhuvitale. All the objects in this world, sarvam vastu, all the objects in the world are bhayanvitam, full of fear on this earth. Like you get a name, you worry my name, when will my name get spoilt? You get wealth, you worry when will this wealth dwindle away? Isn't it? 5 days, billions of dollars disappeared from stock markets. Property prices fell. Banks started shaking and shivering. Already they were weak. Economy in doldrums. You have a big power and position. You are afraid who will take it away from you next. Think of anything that you have, that you own. There is a fear lurking behind it. Even good things. I am a priest of the temple. The next fear is, what if I am removed and somebody else is made a priest? I am the best of the singers in the country today. What if somebody else rises and becomes better than me? This election I have won, I have become the Prime Minister. What if I lose the next elections? So fear is behind every object of this world. Sarvam vastu, bhayanvitam, is full of fear. Bhuvitale, on this earth. Vairagyam eva abhayam. Fearlessness is only in vairagya, in detachment. All others have fear in it. Best of the things also have fear. You're a great pandit, you're afraid somebody else will overtake you sometime. Great athlete, somebody will break your record. Great speaker, somebody can speak better than you. You're a very popular guru, some other guru may become popular than you. Fear is everywhere. Everywhere, in everything there is fear. Vairagyameva abhayam. The only fearlessness is in vairagya, in that dispassion. So this, because we are talking about vairagya this week, since we want to get rid of all those things which we think are not necessary or even an obstacle on the spiritual path. So that clarity should emerge. Some people have written some nice questions. So when does this vairagya come? And somebody has written, only when something goes wrong in the life, vairagya comes. When everything is going right, why Vairagya does not come? You are dreaming. Nice car, traveling on the highway, 230 kilometers. Our Kasturi is there, 300, whatever the final possible and beyond. Going happily. Empty highway, especially in these days. If you are allowed to take a car out on a good highway and you love driving, best time is now. No traffic, nowhere. Going high speed, enjoying the dream, excited, thrilled with that adventure of exploring the higher end of the speedometer, which you have never done before. Because empty road, you don't expect anything on the road. Full speed you are going. Then suddenly, a dog crosses. You apply the brake, and something terrible happens. You go and hit the divider, and you meet with an accident. You wake up from the dream. When dream is going on nicely, how many people wake up from the dream? Have you ever seen anybody waking up from the dream, which is a very nice dream, going on and on and on without any issues? The moment something goes wrong in the dream, immediately we wake up out of the shock of it's going wrong. And what happens? Then to our great relief, we realize, oh, it was only a dream. What a relief. If it was real, what would have happened to me? What would have happened to everybody? So you realize. So Vairagya is that bad incident which wakes you up from this dream. Otherwise nobody will wake up. Bhartrihari woke up from his dream for this infatuation with Pingala, his queen, because something went wrong. And he woke up. So some shock is a must. Otherwise, we will keep slumbering all our lives. So you can think like that if something goes wrong in your life and you wake up from this dream and suddenly develop Vairagya, thank God. Thank God for waking me up. Anyway, it was a dream, isn't it? So I actually didn't lose anything. Did I lose the car in the dream? Did I lose my leg in the dream? No. When I woke up, nothing was there. Thank you for sending a shocking experience in my life. My friend deceived me. My beloved cheated on me. My business partner defrauded me. Somebody else duped me, deceived me, whom I thought was my well-wisher, caused me all grief and harm. Thank you, God, for waking me up from this dream that I thought this will go on forever like this. And anyway, when we wake up, there is no loss. Have you really lost that friend? Have you really lost that business? Have you really lost what you thought you have lost? No, because that was also a part of dream. Seems once Janaka slept and dreamt that his soldiers came. He was sleeping and the soldiers came and said, "Wake up, king, wake up. There is an attack by the neighboring enemy." And Janaka woke up, immediately prepared for the war in the middle of the night. They went and waged the war, fought the war, lost the war. After that, Janaka is the new king, excommunicated. Janaka said, "You get out of this kingdom. I spare you because you are a good king. I will not kill you. But now you get out of this kingdom." So Janaka is on his own. He's walking and walking and walking and crosses over his state borders into the next state. And he's so hungry because he's not eaten. He has fought a war. He's all bruised, hungry. And he's asking everybody, "Give me some food, give me some water. I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry." He goes on telling like that. And then finally reaches a place where somebody is distributing some food. Annapurna Seva. So he joins the queue of all the beggars and mendicants and poor who are waiting for the food. Janaka also joins them. And he keeps waiting, and finally when his turn comes, the food is over. Oh, he curses his fate. I'm so hungry, I stood in the line for so long and the food is over. The one who was serving the food, he feels bad. He looks like, "You look like a good man from some noble origin. Seems like you have fallen to the evil ways and now you are a beggar. Let me see what I can do for you." Poor man scraped the bottom of the vessel and gave it to Janaka. Janaka felt some relief. Finally, I get to eat something. As he was about to put it to his mouth, a kite swooped in and snatched away the porridge or whatever he got, the leftover, the gruel. Janaka was even more miserable now. After so long I got little food, that also is now taken away. What a misery it is. And he, out of his exhaustion, fatigued, aha, he shouted and fell on the ground. And he fell there and woke up from the dream, ha, he shouted. His wife came, what happened? What's wrong with you? He is stunned. He's looking this way and that way. He's not able to believe what happened just now. He looks at his wife with suspicion. He looks at his palace with suspicion. Everything he looks at with suspicion. Is this all true? Is this the dream or is that the dream? He starts worrying. Am I still the king? Because that dream looked so real. I fought a battle. I felt so much of pain and hurt. And I hunger and thirst and disappointment, dejection, exhaustion. That was all so real. Did I fall there and start dreaming that I am a king again? That worry started killing Janaka, eating his head. So next morning also, he was not doing anything. Anybody comes for anything, sir, please sign this. Is this real? Is that real? We have to pass a law. Is this real or is that real? Kept on asking everybody. Because he was so shocked out of the dream that was unable to believe that this is not a dream. He was not sure whether this is not a dream. Because that seemed so real. His hunger was real, his exhaustion was real, his loss of war was real, his wounds were real, the pain was real, agony was real, disappointments were real. So real. So this also feels similarly very real. So how do I believe this queen? How do I believe these people? Whether they are also real or they are all dream. And again I will wake up from this dream and go back to that reality. That I am still a beggar begging for food. Janaka was woken up out of this dream So he kept on asking this question. And he was not finding peace. How do I know this is not real and this is also a dream? And I will be woken up with a rude shock that you are no more a king. Actually, you are a beggar. So then they say, the legend says, Ashtavakra came. Some say Vashishta came, whichever way. And they came and he started asking, and what happened then? Was that real or was this real? Then he asked one question. In that dream, were you there, you watching yourself fight, fall, beg? He said, yes, I was there watching myself, going through the agony of hunger, loss, defeat, exhaustion. Now, here, are you watching yourself meet people in the court and the people, public, praja? Yes, of course I am watching them sitting on the throne, and people are coming and meeting me and praising me, and I am still the same glorious old king. I am not a beggar. Then this preceptor, Ashtavakra, says, see, neither that was real, nor this is real, only you are real. Because what was there is not here. What is here was not there. The only thing that was there and here in both the places was you. Therefore, you are real, everything is unreal, he says. What are you saying? My wife, children, family, all this is unreal? Is it a dream? Yes, it is a dream. Then what about me? You are alone real. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Upanishad say. Brahman is Satya, truth. Jagan is Mithya. Now what if suppose this is all a dream? See, we all get so many dreams. Why only Janaka questioned? Why we don't question? Why we don't ask, is this real or is that real? So many dreams we have gone through, chased by snakes, tigers, cheated by our friends, scolded by our parents, beaten up by our teachers. How many dreams we had? Or even some mad kind of dreams, running and falling into a ditch. All kinds of dreams, or fighting a war and getting killed. So many dreams we have had. Why we didn't wake up and ask this question to anyone? Is this real or not? We didn't ask because we are not Sattva Buddhiman still. Our buddhi is not sharp enough to ask that question. That's why I'm saying keep sharpening your buddhi. Keep sharpening your buddhi by continuous asking this question. Are all the joys here real? Are the pleasures real? Are the pain real? Imagine in second class when you had lost that newly bought pen or gifted pen. Look at the misery of that time. You thought the world is ending now for you. Even some other thought, if I go home, rather being killed by my mother, let me commit suicide in the school itself. How important was that one little thing for you? How much of your mind and body and your thoughts it occupied? How much misery it made you experience? Today, are you going to worry about that 2 rupees pen you lost in second standard? No. Your buddhi has evolved. What is that childish thing? What is that foolish thing I was worried about? So all those you thought were most important to you, some of your friends you left and came here. While leaving, you were agonized. Your hearts were breaking into pieces. I am leaving this friend. When I will meet this friend again? When I will meet whom I love? Shed tears, cried, never slept. But when you came here, grew up again, you thought, oh, these were childish friendships. We played together, ate together, but that does not mean that I cannot live without that person, or that person is not living without me. Similarly, today's things that will appear to you so real, today's problems, today's aspirations, today's desires, today's ideas, 10 years down the line, they won't make any sense to you. They will be so flimsy. Like Janaka, you will ask, was I even there? Was it even true? So buddhi can discriminate. Buddhi can tell you, don't attach too much of importance to anything, because none of this is going to last. Like a dream, it will vanish. None of this is going to last. So buddhi will tell you, why do you invest so much of your time and energy on something which is not going to last? Suppose you are a businessman. I'll tell you, you invest in this building, is real estate, very good. But just know that by tomorrow it is going to collapse because it is made so poorly. As a businessman, are you a fool to go and invest in that building? When you know that the building is actually going to fall, it's been made so poorly. No. Then why should you invest in things of this world which are going to vanish tomorrow? Your friendships will vanish, your relationships vanish, even the love in the friendship. Friend may be there, friendship will not be there. Marriage is there, but the love in the marriage is not there. Children are there, but all the joy that you received from children, so you thought you received, is not there anymore. House is there, comfort is not there. Bed is there, sleep is not there. Food is there, hunger is not there. So what will you do with that? So this discrimination, vichara, buddhi alone is capable of doing it. Mind will not do it, because mind thrives on falsehood. Mind thrives on false. Buddhi discriminates, like Hamsa discriminates. Mind cannot discriminate, buddhi discriminates. That is why buddhi yogam. Buddhi yukta jahatiha ubhe sukruta dushkrute. Develop that buddhi and discard both good and bad in this world, it says. Something good has happened, well, all right, this also will pass. When Krishna, when these Pandavas were thrown into the forest, he made a drama on this. When on a leaf, Krishna wrote, "This too shall pass," and folded it and gave it to Dharmaraj and told, the most desperate times, when you think this is it, the world is, we cannot, another day we cannot go on with this whole thing. This is it. Well, in that kind of desperation, only then you open this. Otherwise, don't open, he said. There is a secret of a solution to all your problems in this little folded leaf. And then what happened? Finally, there came a situation where they were so desperate, they didn't know how to go about it. They thought this is the end, like many times we think. And then he opened the writing of Krishna. And what is written in that? This too shall pass. The good shall pass, the bad shall pass. The favorable shall pass, the unfavorable shall pass. Friends will pass, relations will pass, name will pass, everything will pass. You will not pass. You in the sense, the Atman will not pass. Everything else will pass. This body also will pass tomorrow, whatever we do. Somebody showed me a documentary. I believe it is from Thailand or somewhere. There is Malaysia, a lady who is maybe 90 years old now. And she has a huge inheritance from her father and all that, husband, previous husband, whatever. So much wealth she has. And all that she spends just to keep herself young. So many injections, so many treatments, so many operations, just to keep herself young. And the interviewer is asking, you're almost 90 or 95 something she's reaching. And so many dresses, so much of makeup. She looks like a painted doll. Hair is fake, teeth are fake, eyelashes are fake, skin is fake, nails are fake. Everything is fake. And she has done so many operations to remove her wrinkles, and so much money she has spent, millions of dollars she has spent on just keeping herself. Then the interviewer asked, is it, this is what makes you really happy? She says, I don't know what makes me happy. But if I don't do this, I become unhappy. I don't know what makes me happy. I don't know where is happiness. I've never found it. It means in her own makeup operations, treatments, she has not found any happiness. But she's afraid that she'll become unhappy if she doesn't do this. That is our nature. Do you know where is happiness? No. But I think I'll become unhappy if I don't do this. If I don't have these friends, I think I'll become unhappy. If I don't have social acceptance, a social circle, I'll become unhappy. But truth is that you should try it out. Throw it and see whether you really become unhappy. Or it was your illusion that you'll become unhappy. Therefore, buddhi is the biggest friend. It helps you to develop this viveka and vairagya. Viveka, is it necessary? Is it real? And why should I waste my time on it? And vairagya, the other good friend, says, if you don't have to need it, just throw it. Why should I take it for another day? Don't postpone. See, this throwing you should not postpone. What is happening? We know, janami dharma. I know this is right. Janami dharma, this is wrong. But to get rid of it, the nivritti it needs immediate action, no delay. To delay. A Brahmin once, like you were singing, Janama Maran se par karo, Bhavasagar sudhar karo, Garaja suno, or whatever. What is that you are singing? All of you are singing this kind of bhajans. Mrityu, save me from Mrityu, save me from Punarjanma. Like that, some Brahmin would chant, so many mantras are there. Tayambakam yajamaye sugandim pushtivardhanam urvarukam vandanat mrityor mukshi yama amrutata. Keep chanting. So one Brahmin was chanting, God became very happy, sent one sage there, saying, pick this man up and take him to heaven, because he is praying for Amrutatvam, he doesn't want this world. Let us take him. Grant his wish today. So he reached that family. First names, Kyali some Yamaduta or Devaduta, let us say for good sake, Devaduta. God heard the prayer. Janama Maran se par karo. Somebody is asking me for this. All right, Devaduta, go pick him up now. Par karo immediately. Rarely people ask, no. Remembering God in troubled times is not really remembering God. We are remembering our troubles, not God. Because we have troubles, we are remembering God. That is not really remembering God. So this man is asking, Amrutat, give me Amrutat. He said, pick him up immediately before he changes his mind. So Devaduta lands up at his door. Knock, knock. Let's go. Who are you? God sent me. Why? You just now sang Janama Maram se par karo and all that. Really? You believe in all this? Yes, you asked and you are granted. You are so lucky you are going to go to heaven now. He says, oh, so wonderful, so grateful to God, so thankful to Swami for giving this wonderful opportunity to be with him, serve him. But you see, just now I have got married and my wife is expecting a child. Now, is it not my adharma to my wife to leave her with a baby in the womb and walk away? So, once the child is born and I have settled them, taken care, you please come back. I'll be there to go. Perfect, no problem. He goes and reports, oh God, he has asked for some more time. He still doesn't want to go Janama Marana Para and all that stuff because there is a son to be born. So, Brahmin needs a son to do his Shraddha. Anyway, so after 4 or 5 years, as the case might have been, this Devaduta reappears. Says, see, I have this target, God told me to pick you up. You have been delaying this 3 years, 4 years. He sees a small boy playing, boy and a girl also, let us say. Both are playing there. And wife is there, running this way, that way, cooking, cleaning. And this man is, Janam Maran se paar karo, Janam Maran se paar karo. And this Devaduta says, all right, second call, let's go. He says, oh, you come back. I really wanted to go today itself, but you see, my children are very small. Once my son grows up, so that he can take the responsibility of the family, look after his little daughter, a little sister, and the wife, then I would have done my dharma. Then I will come with you. Just a few more years, kindly wait. So Devaduta comes back to God, says, he's asked for a few more years. God says, all right, let it be. So after a few more years, Devaduta appears. Some big function is going on. Everything is decorated, music, food. So he goes and says, hey, I'm back. He says, my son's marriage is going on right now. You should have waited, come a little later. My son is just getting married. Everything, festivity is on. If I die, what it will look like. All right, goes back. God says, so be it. Few more years, comes back. He says, just now my grandson is born. He needs a grandfather to look after him. But my son is no use. He has no brains. He will squander away all the wealth that I have accumulated, amassed, and he will not have any, he's not a responsible boy. I have to look after all this wealth, otherwise thieves will steal away. My son is very careless, and his wife is double careless. She spends so much. So I don't think I can leave right now, otherwise my grandchildren's life will be spoiled. All right, so when you settle everything, you please let me know. So again he continues, Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat, the typical prayers, which are going on for 20 years now. And one fine day God says, what happened to that man? I was supposed to redeem him, he had asked me for redemption. Because generally people ask for money, wealth, wife, family, children, jobs, USA visa. But this is one person who is asking for Mrityor Mukshiyam Amritat. Please pick him up this time. And the Devaduta is complete resolution, says, I must go and pick this man up now, because enough is enough. I've been waiting for 25 years now. What, I had no other work or what? Wait for this man to get ready. So ends up at his home, knock, knock. 2 children open the door. Yes, what is it required? He says, where is that old man used to be there? He says, who? My grandfather? Yes. Oh, he passed away. So he passed away. What happened to him? Whatever happened to him? He said he passed away. Then he says, when Devaduta gets into his yoga and finds out where is he realizes that this grandfather had buried all the wealth in the backyard because he was scared that this son will squander it away. And he was already passed away and born as a serpent who would sit on that wealth and never allow anybody to come. And so Devaduta says, God, what should I do? He tell the children, there is a snake in the backyard, let them kill him. So these children go with sticks and beat the snake and finish him off. That is the fate of such a person. Because he kept on delaying, because desires are unending. Trishnana jirna, vayameva jirna. Our desires are not going to get old and disappear. We are the one who will get old and die. Our desires will not die. So when should you do that? Then and there. Right then. It is not necessary, right then dump it. I said yesterday, if a snake is coiling up your hand, you're not going to analyze the snake and its species. You have to get rid of it immediately. You're not going to wait any further. Like that, we should not wait, because once we start waiting, the mind takes over and starts playing the same tricks. No, you have a family, you have this, you have that, you have this, you have that. It will go on and on and on. It will never wake us up. So sometimes what happens is God is really compassionate, a shock comes to you in life. And then you turn towards God. Vairagya comes suddenly, because you suddenly realize, no, I loved them so much and they cheated me. I helped them so much and they backstabbed me. I was so kind to them and they're so bad to me. What kind of world is this? Chi, I don't want this world. I don't want this. So you develop some kind of vairagya. So that question which was asked, if you don't have this kind of shocking experiences, then like this Brahmin's story, you will find some reason or the other why you should continue and not leave this pursuit. Vairagya will never come to you. It will never come to you. Vishaya vitrishnam. When you develop disinterest in Vishaya, Vashikara Sangya Vairagyam, they say. When you develop dispassion, disinterest in all the sense and sense objects, and now you are in complete control of yourself, Vashikara Sangya, in that state of complete control. That is Vairagyam, Patanjali. Whatever you hear, Drishta, Anushravika, whatever is learned from scriptures or hear, whatever you see, for all the objects you develop some kind of disinterest, dispassion, vitrishna, Vishaya vitrishna. And that state, when you have developed disinterest, you are in perfect control of yourself because it doesn't tempt you. It doesn't tempt you. Suppose you don't like some food and somebody comes and says, hey, have it, have it, have it. What will you say? Thank you. No, it is very good. I know it is good. But I don't like it. I thank you. That is disinterest. I know it is good. It may be good for you, good to many people like it. But personally, I don't like it. I have vitrishna. I don't have desire for it. So, Vashikara, you are in control of yourself. That sangya, that state is vairagyam, out of disinterest in things. So now the next question you will ask, if you become disinterested, then you should put a long castor oil face and roam around like, some people go to the other extreme, total negativity. Jagad Mithya. There is nothing, all this illusion, the dream, Kva mitra, like Pita naiva me, naiva mata na janma, na bandhur, na mitra, guru, naiva shishya. But if you have really understood the Atman, then you will not be long-faced. You will see the play of God everywhere. The drama of God. But if you don't have that, you have only theoretical knowledge. Then what will happen? You will develop kind of a hatred. Some of the sannyasis, they look down upon others as if they are like wretched creatures, to be shunned, abandoned, to be distanced. That is because they have half knowledge of what is vairagya. They look down upon everybody else, they are no good. But true vairagya is what? Vashikara Sangya. You have control over yourself. You have control over yourself. Why? Because somehow you have developed dispassion for all the objects of the world. So it's very beautifully said. For that person who is like this, what happens to him? Yada yat kartum ayati tat kritva tishtate sukham. As and when things come, they do that and they are in peace. They don't give over attention or they don't get overexcited by things. Sukheshu, dukkheshu anudvigna manaha, sukheshu vigataspraha. Good comes, let it come, this too shall pass. Why should I jump around for this? I know this will pass. Something goes wrong, anudvigna manaha, not disturbed in mind. Why? This too will pass. So why should I pay unnecessary attention to this and spoil my peace? They develop this kind of an attitude, knowing the truth of the life, that this all will pass. And therefore, I don't have to spend too much of my time and energy on these things. And that's how they develop a disinterest for things. Today, you might be the best singer here. But there's no guarantee tomorrow somebody else cannot sing better than you. If you're so attached to your position as a singer, no, I'm the best singer of this place. Then there is fear behind it that will create trouble for you. You will get attached, you will get angry, you will start hating others. And you will scheme against others, plot against others to make sure that your position does not change. Or you are an administrator or the head of an institution or anything. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam. Vairagyameva abhayam. How does it matter? Okay, today I am a singer. Yesterday I was not the best singer. So what is it? Tomorrow I may not be the best singer. What is it? That kind of dispassion in everything. That is vairagyam. Vashikara sangya. It's not about running away. It is about keeping yourself under control. You are very much on the road. Because you are afraid that you will get cheated again, that's why you don't want to make friendships. Because you're afraid somebody may not respect you again, that's why you don't want to show up. Because you're afraid that you may be, not find the true love, so you're afraid of loving anybody. Because you think people will not be grateful to what you do, so you stop doing help to anybody. That is not Vairagya. Is that Vairagya? It's Vikara. Out of Bhaya, you're running away from things and saying, I am a great sannyasi, I have given up everything. But these are all whatever the fox says, sour grapes. I don't eat grapes nowadays. Why? Because I can't get it. But I won't tell that. Oh, those grapes are very sour, they are bitter, they are not tasty at all. That's why I don't eat grapes nowadays. Why are you not engaged in some activity? No, I am a sannyasi, I don't. Truth is that you are good for nothing, you can't do anything, one thing properly. If you go and do, you'll get scolding, so you decided that I will act sannyasi, vairagi, and I will not engage in any activity. Why is he not coming? He's a sannyasi, people will say. Oh, good. Truth is what? Give him one work, he can't do one thing straight. He'll spoil it. So that is not Vairagya. Vairagya is Vashikara Sangya, by Vishaya Vitrishna. By having developed dispassion for things, you have controlled yourself. It does not mean that you don't do those things. You do things, but you don't get attached to those things. You don't get attached to these things. Why you don't get attached to these things? Because you have this oil of Vairagya. Ramakrishna said, if you cut jackfruit, it sticks to your finger. Ladies will know better, because men only know to eat. So ladies who cut and make, jackfruit sticks to your finger. It's a very irritating feeling, itchy feeling. So what the ladies do, they apply a lot of oil to their hand and then cut jackfruit, so that the juice of the jackfruit, the sap, that doesn't stick to your hand anymore. So that is Vairagya. So will you stop cutting jackfruits? No, we'll still cut jackfruits and make curry and eat it. But we will cut it with oil on our palms. Will you stop engaging in the works of the world? No, I will still engage. I will cook my food. I will do everything that is required. But because of this Vairagya, disinterest, dispassion, I have applied that oil. So it won't stick to my finger. It won't give me trouble. Will you not marry and have children? You may marry and have children. But I am not going to run away because I have fear that these people will turn out to be like, what is that? Bhartrihari's wife. But you are, because I have no attachment to them. Will you not study any further because this is all avidya, maya is not going to redeem you, take you to Brahman? No, you will study because that is your duty. Yada yad kartum ayati, whatever comes your way, tat krutva tishtate sukham. Doing that, they are happy. Yoga yukta you will become. You become a yogi. What kind of yogi? Yoga vishuddhatma, pure hearted. No passion for anything. Do it because it has to be done. Not beyond that. You are a yoga yukta, vishuddhatma, pure hearted. Jitendriya you are. Jitendriya means you have controlled all your senses. You have captured all of them in your control and you use as you want them. They cannot use you anymore. You choose, you decide, you act according to your wish. And your mind and your senses don't drag you around. So that is the nature you will, yoga yukta you become. Jitendriya you will become. And so what happens for that person? Even if he does, nothing attaches to him. What he does? Kurvan napi. Whatever work he has to do, na lipyate. Nothing sticks to him. Why? Because the oil is there. How can something stick to your hand now? So you go about doing your day-to-day work with interest, with disinterest or dispassion to the extent that you know all this is transitional. Even if I get good name out of it, people come and praise, smile, thank you, this too shall pass. Tomorrow something goes wrong, the same people will come and curse also. So even then you say, this too shall pass. I am doing my duty to the best of my ability as a service to God. Beyond that I have nothing to expect, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. That kind of idea which is born out of this kind of an understanding of the world and its temporariness. That is Vairagya. When you are in control of things, you don't run away from things because you can't handle them. You develop a control over things, you should be able to handle it with dispassion. It should not affect you because you applied the oil of Vairagya. I was telling, when you fight a war, what Malla Yuddha, all these palwans will be fully drenched in oil. Why do they do that? So the next fellow cannot catch hold. His grip will keep slipping. That's all it is. When Maya tries to catch you, its grip should slip. Because you applied tremendous oil of Vairagya on yourself. And that's why even if you work in the world, the Maya tries to catch you and capture you, its grip slips. You escape. So that is the idea of Vairagya. It comes out of this discriminating buddhi, sattva buddhi, which goes on thinking what is real, what is unreal, what is temporary, what is permanent, whether it is necessary to spend all my time, invest all my energy on something which is not going to last. Why should I waste my time on that? But as a part of my duty, now that I've already, as he told, what you've already got into, you cannot get out of it now. Make sure that you don't add more to the burden already that you have. Try to avoid as much possible. But what you already got into, develop this idea. It doesn't mean that tomorrow wife says, I'm not cooking for you, my husband, because I've developed Vairagya. You are no husband, I am no wife now. Now she'll cook for the husband and she'll feed him as if she's feeding God in him. God is there in him also. Let me think I'm offering this Naivedyam to God and leave it at that. Because this Vishuddhatma, how does he think? Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. How he thinks? He thinks in every being there is divine. Because of his pure mind. His thinking is Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. In every being there is divine. He sees that. So wife will now, how will she behave after developing Vairagya? She will say, Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. In that person there is divine being. So I don't see the outer cover. I see the inner stuff, which is Bhutatma. Atman is there in it. Therefore, even if you do Kurvan apina lipyate, it won't get attached to you. Similarly, husband has to develop this idea. Sarva Bhutatma Bhuta. She is a divine mother. So that idea will come with continuous contemplation of this thought, with your buddhi, pure buddhi. And pure buddhi is possible with pure company, good company, satsanga. So that is the way you can develop. And Vairagya comes, yes, when you are too sleepy. For too long you have been slumbering away under one big divine plan. If divine is merciful to you, under that big divine plan, he will send a shock. Because his main goal was for you to remember him. And what are you doing after coming to this world? You've forgotten him only. So should he not wake you up? Should he not give you a small shock when you sleep in the class and forget that you're here to study? What does happen? What happened? The teacher comes. Our teacher, some are like perfect. They take a chalk piece and straight it goes to the 12th row fellow. Goes straight and hits him. Like, what perfection these teachers have. By hitting, they become perfect. They know how fast, how long, how much distance, momentum, velocity, perfect calculations. 1 second they'll turn like this. All of you have got some chalk shots. Have you or not? If that doesn't work, then teacher will walk up to you and take care of what needs to be done. That shock will wake you up. Then you realize, oh, I was sleeping in the class. I was thinking I was playing football in the field. Dream. If the dream goes on like this and nobody hits you and wakes you up, you will continue to playing football even through the whole day in your dream. Nothing will go wrong. But because somebody has hit you or some shock has happened, you have woken up from the dream. That is why this Madallasa said, oh dear child, don't go on sleeping like this in this mohanidra of samsara, in this delusion, this sleep of delusion and dreams. Wake up. Wake up, my dear one, because you are that. You are not the one who is to be born and who is to die. You are that. That is how Madallasa told her children. So we have to tell that to ourselves. If we don't do that, what will happen? You will suffer and everybody around you will also suffer. If you realize, everybody around you will also realize, like the story of the Hemalekha, who made everybody realize in her kingdom what the truth is. She also got married like an ordinary girl into a king. But she slowly brought this realization upon her own husband and through him everybody else and redeemed everybody. So if one person gets redeemed, everybody will get redeemed. That is the power of this Atmajnana. It is so amazing. And it's yours. It's yours to have. but you must claim it. Hmm? Some refund comes on some purchase. When we travel abroad, anything you have purchased, you can take a refund at the airport. Tax refunds. There is a counter there. So some point in time, some people had purchased some things and they were going back and they were told there will be a tax refund at the airport, there is a counter. Now only if you go to the counter, stand in the queue, claim the tax refund, can the money be yours. Money is yours, guaranteed it's yours. If you don't claim, what happens? It's gone. Even though you deserve that money, even you owned that money, it was rightfully yours, because you didn't put the effort of going to the tax refund counter, standing and claiming the refund, it's gone. It's gone forever. Likewise, this Jnana, this Atman, all this is yours. You have been given approved claim form. Claim it and you will get it. If you don't claim it, whose loss? Your loss. What can God do? But sometimes God says, wake up and claim it before it expires. And so He wakes you up. If you don't get up nicely, then He kicks you and wakes you up. Hostel Suprabhatam wake up, various methods are there. Have you seen those methods? No. First method is, get up Babu, get up, good morning, it's time for Suprabhatam. That is the first round of wake up. Second round of wake up, hey, get up. Third round, I don't want to say because no words are spoken then. Then he gets up. Oh, Suprabhatam time. Wardens were pouring water also. Wardens are known for such clever tricks. So wardens will pour water. Some wardens will pour their agitation, frustration. Every day I have to deal with this Kumbhakarna. Every morning this is a drama. First bell, second bell, third bell. Literally you have to drag him out of the bed. There are some. So they need some shock to wake up. That is why some shocks are there in life. Whoever wrote that question, why there should be shocks in life for getting Vairagya? Because you're slumbering away happily. And God needs to wake you up. Otherwise you lose. That's why you have to be. Some people said that after I have got this idea, I feel very, very, very peaceful. I am much better than before. Aham Brahmasmi is a chant that goes on inside me anytime. But nowadays I don't sleep as much as I was sleeping earlier. And sometimes I wake up many times in the night. Correct. Sleep is tamas. So there is a bhoga nidra, there is a yoga nidra, and there is a roga nidra. 12 hours of sleep is roga nidra. Isn't 8 hours of sleep is bhoga nidra. 4 hours of sleep is yoga nidra. Who does this yoga nidra? Whose minds are at peace. See, sleep is only a way to rejuvenate you, to reset your body and refresh it. That's all is the necessity of sleep, like the food. It's only to solve your hunger. It is not to give you pleasure of going on eating. To satisfy your tongue is not the purpose of eating. It's only to eat so much as your stomach needs for keeping your body energized. Like that, sleep is only so much is required, which will help you to keep yourself active next day, refreshed and not tired. So if you sleep less, it's not that you don't sleep at all, like 2 hours, 1 hour, that will destroy your body. But generally what happens when your mind becomes calmer and calmer, you will need less sleep, less food. All these, the physical things will become lesser and lesser. You will stop eating Rajasic food. You don't like that too much of salt, spice and things like that. You will require Sattvic food because that goes with your new mental makeup. You don't require too much of sleep. Your sleep patterns start going with your new mental makeup. The clothes that you wear, the places that you go to, the friends that you meet, the things that you read, everything will start getting moderated. Whoever has written this question, please watch what else is getting moderated in you. Only sleep or also certain habits of eating, talking, moving around or engaging in activities. Are they also becoming lesser for you is the question you should ask. If they are also becoming lesser, then it's a pattern. It's a pattern of your transformation. But suppose for some reason only sleep is becoming lesser, but you are eating well and you are doing everything okay, then I think you might have some sleep problems. Please discuss with the doctor. But if the whole pattern is changing, the way you think, talk, walk, eat, sleep, then you know that some transformation has begun in you. So your body is trying to tell the first lap of sleep that you have slept probably was just enough for you. The second lap is not necessary. It's like I've eaten 2 chapatis, my stomach says it is enough for me. The next 2 chapatis I have a choice to eat, but that is not necessity. So who knows, your body is transforming like that and it is as responding to your new mental makeup. So maybe you should also respond to it. But if you are getting, everything else is same, only sleep you are getting disturbances, then probably you are thinking too much or probably you are taking some pressure, you check with the doctor. But if everything is changing together, it's a new pattern that has begun. A new change and transformation has begun in you. The same question, like vairagya comes after all our expectations are smashed. So how to consciously choose to act and not develop vairagya only when we are hit by a shocking incident. We have so many near and dear ones, we have so much emotions for them, love, duty, whatever. How do we develop vairagya? With this idea that nothing is real, nobody is real. It's a dream. And therefore I should pay only so much attention as it deserves. Do my duty, apply the oil, cut the jackfruit, cook the curry, offer it, sarva bhutatma, bhutatma, everybody is divine. With that thing, offer your wife, husband, everybody is divine. See, Ramakrishna was married. You know that. That time children were 3-4-year-old, he was engaged, and maybe 5-7 years he came to his brother in Dakshineshwar as a junior priest. And then he was already married, so later they sent his wife also, after some time, Sharada Ma. So, Ramakrishna would say, Sharada Ma, I see mother in you. I only see mother in you. I can't see you as my wife. So, please forgive me. I can't oblige you with the familial duties. I can help you with your spiritual progress as a husband, as a partner in your spiritual progress. But I cannot see you as a wife right now. I can only see you as the mother because you have already attained that jnana. But for those who have not attained the jnana, then yada yat kartum ayati. Whatever comes your way, do it accordingly. Paramahamsa Yogananda would write in his book that his mother and father will meet only once in a year. Rest of the year they will be busy with their own duties and prayers and pujas, and they'll meet only once in a year for progeny. Otherwise they will not even meet. Means they are there in the same house, but they stay in a separate room doing their own sadhana. This is Paramahamsa Yogananda's parents. He had some, 4 or 5 children they had, whichever way. In old times people used to have more children also because children used to die, a lot of children used to die before they are 3 or 5 because of several diseases which did not have any cure. So sometimes we misunderstand our parents and great-grandfathers, grandfathers for many children. But the truth also is that in those days children would die very early. Not everybody will survive, so they always had this fear. Nevertheless, they were so spiritually oriented. They will meet once in a year. All the other year they are separate and they are living as 2 sadhakas doing their own sadhana. And children saw this and they learned from them that this is how life should be led. As I said, we are here for our spiritual progress and everything else should fit in this scheme of things. It is not to be disturbing this main process. How much I eat? Only so much that will keep my body healthy and not put me to sleep the moment I start meditating. How much should I sleep? Only so much that my body is refreshed and not beyond that. How much should I work? Only so much that will earn me some food and look after my family, which is my duty, not to accumulate and amass wealth. That's not the idea of work. And what do I do with the rest of the time? I focus on my sadhana. So even in something like a Grihastha Dharma, they're so focused on their spiritual progress. So it's possible. You cannot say that you can not deal with that or deal with this. But then you should have that steadiness and firmness. There's conviction, Half here, half there, and you end up, you are dangerous, that is blind here. Somebody also wrote a letter. When I meditate, I feel some physical discomforts. It's possible, because you have not used to this. When you started walking, you felt physical discomforts only. You felt like somebody should hold you, otherwise you will fall. When you started reading, you felt some physical discomforts. You started playing or learning a new game, exercising. Everywhere there were discomforts. There's no discomfort. But you overcome those discomforts. You didn't take a refuge in, this is a discomfort, so I should not. Unless it's a chronic, you are a patient, broken limbs, and you're too old, There's a different story. But for the young ones who are capable of controlling their body and mind, they should practice that. Somebody has written that, of course, it's getting hot here. So, I feel like having a cooler while I'm meditating so that I feel comfortable. Is it okay, or should I just bear it and things like that? So, should I suppress that, or should I not? So it seems once Buddha was there, and his disciples were following him everywhere. Obviously, they didn't have a house to live. They were all mendicants unless the king gave them finally a place to stay. Otherwise, they were just under the trees in the forest. So in the forest, these mosquitoes will be there. So whenever they will sit for meditation, these mosquitoes will come and bite these monks. So they will be all scratching here, there, no meditation is happening. So some frustrated monk went to Buddha and he told, "No, oh great one, I don't know how you survive these mosquito bites, but for me, they're biting me everywhere. It's impossible for me. What should I do?" he asked. What was Buddha's answer? Bear it. Because the whole idea is that you're going out of your body consciousness. That is the whole idea, isn't it? To get out of your body consciousness. So you bear it. I cannot help you. Because that. It means what? A mosquito has defeated you in your meditation. Yes or not? That mosquito deviated, distracted you from your meditation. Nevertheless, because you are in an early stage, you still have not developed that kind of thing. You need some. If it's so unbearable, okay, have some basic comfort, a fan or a cooler or whatever, to just help you focus on your mind on that thought and not worry about your body. But a time should come where your mind should have progressed so much that whether you're in-house, outside, walking, talking, you're out of that body feeling and then you're always focusing on your thought. Like parents are there, older people are there. So I tell them, please choose a comfortable. Asana is what? You should be comfortable with your body. That is asana. All the other twists and bends are different. To me, an asana for meditation is what? A position in which you are most comfortable with your body, being in your body. That is asana. If you think Padmasana is the asana, well, Sukhasana is, Vajrasana is okay. Except for Shavasana, everything is okay. Start vertical and end up horizontal. Except Shavasana, all other asanas are okay, including chair asana, sofa asana. Anything is okay, but not laziness. So being comfortable in your position in your body is asana. Only then you can be comfortable with thinking higher thing. So if it troubles you too much, if it's a small thing you can overcome, try it out. I went, this Sadhvi Bhagavati ji was telling, that when she started coming to Rishikesh, she found it very difficult. She has sent a book to me, in that it's written. She's an American, never sat on the floor. They don't know how to sit cross-legged. They always sat on the chair. For him, it's very difficult. Not that she's like overweight or she's too old or she has some medical problem. No. Just the habit is not there of sitting cross-legged on the floor. And in Paramaratha Ketanam, every day you have to sit cross-legged. That too at 4 o'clock. There's 2 hours meditation. So this lady is like, okay, but he tried and then the knee started paining, the back started hurting, the hips started hurting, neck started paining. So all this started happening to her. And every time she will get this thought that this is enough, I can't bear it beyond this. Let me get up. And every time the other side of the mind will tell, no, bear it, bear it, bear it. Don't get up. You cannot get up because what you are aiming for is far more superior. The body will get adjusted with it with time. So even though she found it very difficult, she has written in the book that she decided, I will not get up. So she slowly practiced, and now she's so comfortable sitting. She's more Indian than most of the Indians. Her Hindi or the Sanskrit or her clothes, food habits, walking, talking, everything has changed. Why it happened? Because she decided that I will not get up. Let mosquitoes come. Let them bite. I will not get up. Because I've decided I will sit for meditation for so long. How can something else as silly as a mosquito or some such silly little thing can distract me from this? She decided and persevered through that. And that's how she has developed that habit of sitting or meditation for so long. For small things, you cannot give up a larger things, isn't it? So you should think like that too. But if it's too like you're not able to concentrate, okay, some basic comfort is a must, but only to the limit, only to a limit. Body, the moment you feed the body, it asks only for more. That is its nature. It's never satisfied. Trishna Jirna. It never gets over for this body. Last moment also it demands something from you. So that also you should be conscious when you are practicing your whatever sadhana you are doing. Otherwise you will not progress. For every 5 minutes you get up and relax yourself, stretch yourselves. Nothing is going to happen. Continuity is very, very important. And I told you to double your time of sadhana. If you are doing 5 minutes, make it 10. If you are doing 10 minutes, make it 20. If you are doing 20 minutes, make it 40. Why? Because with every week, passing week, you should be able to endure a longer time of sitting and steady. Doesn't matter if those next 10 minutes mind was wandering here and there, doesn't matter. You should be sitting. You shouldn't give up. That whole trick of the mind is to make you feel so uncomfortable that you give up pursuing it and kicking it out. So it has won over you. That's this real game. You want to defeat that mind. It makes you feel so uncomfortable, it is not necessary. I think I have already become Brahmagyani. Forget all that. That is all mind tricks. So sit down till you have fulfilled the promise to yourself that this much time I was supposed to spend today continuously. I'm not saying now 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Now continuity should start coming. First week I said, okay, even if you're walking, talking, keep observing the mind. Second week what I said, if you have to really, really know which thoughts to get rid of, you have to really sit down and deliberate on them. That why this thought has to be got rid of. And somebody has also written a question, not today, yesterday I've written, how to get rid of these desires. Similar question, I'm suppressing them now, but how to get rid of them permanently? You said you should uproot it. You should not just cut it. If you cut it, will grow back again. So like Chanakya poured the syrup on the thorny bush. What is the method, it says? The method is that only. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhudvijanatah tatra komoha kashoka ekatvam anupashyatah. There is no other way. Unless you know that, you cannot get rid of it from the roots. You can cut it, at least your mind is cleaner, it is hurting you less, it is troubling you less. So these things will be taken care for the time being. But at the back of your head, you should also know that these are all capable of growing back. All these are capable of growing back. They have not permanently gone. Temporarily I have got rid of. Therefore, be conscious of that. And when can you get rid of it permanently? When you have realized your truth. When you have developed Atma Jnana. That is the only final solution to these repetitive struggles with the mind. That time mind merges in the Buddhi and Buddhi merges in the Atman. That is what I was teaching in Kathopanishad today. Your senses merge in the mind merges in the Buddhi merges in the Atman, Jivatman, and Jivatma in the Paramatman feeling. So you are completely only driven by the Paramatman now, no more mediators in between for you. So till that feeling arrives in you, there is no uprooting it from the roots. It's only temporary solution now, but definitely it will help you. Why? Because your path is clearer now, you can at least walk. Otherwise there's so much of bush and jungle on your path, you couldn't have got to God. So as you're walking one step, throwing a desire out. As you're walking another step, cutting off another desire. As you're walking further, you're cutting off another attachment. So you're cleaning your path as you're walking. And therefore at the end of it they say, Yat chitne mat utne path. Ramakrishna Paramsa would say. As many people and minds are there, that many ways are there to reach God. Why? Because your desires, your attachments are in your path. And who has to clean this? Uddhared Atmanatmanam. You have to clean it for yourself. You get my point? That is why as many people, that many paths. Because somebody is not going to keep a nice road clean and you can walk and reach God. That's not. That is between you and yourself. The journey is between you and yourself. So how can somebody else enter you and clean up your path? You have to clean it for yourself. It means what? You have to start walking, and as you confront desires, attachments, all negativity, all kinds of feelings, positive feelings also. That I will teach you in the next step. This is negative feelings right now. Those attachments which are negative in nature, which have at least given you sorrow once at least, at some point in time. That is a negative attachment. Think like that and throw it right now. So how you define that negative attachment? It has given you some sorrow at least once in the last whatever number of years, or fear or any negative feeling to you once. Then also it deserves, because it can grow back. It has a thorn in it. So therefore you have to keep cleaning as you're walking, and if you'll know your path becomes better, I said you will feel and start feeling the change inside you. You feel better, you feel more light, you feel peaceful, you feel energized. You don't have so much of disturbance in your mind. Chitta vritti nirodha, all these chitta vrittis will start reducing. You should know these changes. If you're not knowing this, experiencing these changes means something is wrong. By the end of 2 weeks, you should have been a little more calmer person than what you were before. Even if it's 1% calmer than before, it should be. It can't happen that you have worked really sincerely on this method and after 2 weeks you're still, first week I told you will be miserable. Second week beginning also I told you will be miserable, more miserable. But the end of second week, you should have developed some calm, some steadiness. Then you have progressed well. Otherwise you have not done it right. And if you have any more time other than this, like I told, reduce your engagements, actions, then do some other sadhyaya also. And similarly, I would prefer that you can do anything else. You can even chant Lalita Sahasranamam, or you can chant Vishnu Sahasranamam, or you can chant any other mantra or bhajans or anything that will help you. Now keep your mind always absorbed in that syrup. Don't take it out. It will dry up again. So that secret is there. So practice more, because this is the time when mind is going to really become very, very aggressive. Because it is realizing its end is nearing. First week it didn't realize, you were only watching it. As long as mother is watching the children play from the balcony, the children are not bothered. The moment she says, hey, come inside, that's when the children start rebelling. 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. That is what mind will do. I don't want to come inside. I don't want to stop what I am doing. So it will rebel. It will ask too many questions. It will try to dissuade you. You put up through all that. Just watch the mind, how much drama this mind does. Now, how clever it is, how many tricks it plays. Look at that Brahmin's mind. Come after 2 years, come after 2 years, come after 2 years. And somebody who could have got Amrutatva became Sarpatva. Finally became a snake and sitting behind. And gets killed by his own grandchildren for whose sake he was protecting the wealth. So that is the problem with postponement. Never postpone and try to do as many times as possible. Again, if it grows back, it's okay. Your hair grows back, right? You cut it again. That's how it is. So you'll keep cutting.
Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham na cha shrotra jivve na cha ghrana netre na cha vyoma bhume na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na cha prana sangyo na vai panchavayu na va saptadhatu na va panchakosha na va panipadau na chopastapayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na me dvesha radau na me lobha moho mayo naiva venaiva matsalya bhava na dharmo na chato na kamo चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्तः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदा पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्मा न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपः विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां सदा मे समर्थं न मोक्षेण बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्